Everybody, welcome into another edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well today on a Tuesday. Lots to get into today. It is a Tuesday, so Shamus Fillmore will join me in about a half hour's time, maybe a little bit before that. We're live a little bit earlier today. Shamus has some things to do this evening, so wanted to get him on the show this week and wanted to get that in a little bit earlier. So Shamus will join. We're going to talk about some NHL news. We'll talk some NBA. And I know we watched a few different movies over the weekend, a few different shows that I want to get his opinions on as well. And I finished Better Call Saul last night. I finished the show. I'm having a really hard time sleeping lately. And I've been watching a lot of shows because I'm either watching sports or I'm watching a show because I can't sleep. And lately, this past weekend, I watched The Watcher. I watched The Sinner, season 4, which was interesting and also pretty good. The Watcher, worth the watch, actually. I know it's a Netflix show. It's not a great show. It's not a show you'll want to watch again. The ending is what it is. It's not my favorite ending to a show, but it's worth the watch. But I finished Better Call Saul before the sports festivities started last night. And I was blown away by how good the show was. If you haven't seen Better Call Saul, I've said this before, it's truly one of the best shows I've ever seen, and it's a sequel to the greatest show ever made, in my opinion, in Breaking Bad. The Vince Gilligan, creator, writer of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, has just created such an interesting world in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and created such interesting, compelling, likable, and unlikable characters, which is what you're seeking when you're watching a show. You want to see pieces of characters that you see in yourself. You want to be able to dissect and really take in all this interesting information and see what kind of trouble that your favorite characters get themselves into. And I'll tell you, ladies and gents, watching Better Call Saul, I grew an appreciation for that series even more. Rhea Seehorn is the star of Better Call Saul. It's not Bob Odenkirk, who's great as Saul Goodman. Rhea Seehorn plays Saul's girlfriend, or later on wife, spoiler alert, Kim Wexler. And she's never won an award for playing Kim, which is a travesty in my opinion. She's the star of the show. She's a phenomenal actress. This is a launching pad for her. She's only 50 years old. I think she's going to do really great things in the cinematic industry, whether it's TV, whether it's movies. I've actually seen recently she just signed on to do the next show that Vince Gilligan is doing. Got to imagine it's going to be a good show. I have such a love for that world. The world of Breaking Bad and the world of Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul that they helped create with Bob Odenkirk and Jonathan Banks, who plays Mike Ehrmantraut. They had me from the jump. I watched the first episode and I said, this is compelling. Something is good about this. And I was reluctant to start the series, just like I was reluctant to start The Office. And I love both more than anything. The Office will always hold a special place in my heart. First year university, and I started watching The Office. First year university, I also watched Breaking Bad. I finished both in record time because it's me. I love that series. I highly recommend it. Highly, highly recommend it. The next show I'm going to start is Succession. I haven't watched Succession yet. I'm starting it on Crave maybe tonight. The weekend for sure I'll be starting Succession, and I'm excited to get into that world. I've only heard good things. I've read every kind of review I can about the show. and I've only heard good things. Not to mention some of the actors are really good, and I've seen them in Jonathan Strong, one of them who was in a great movie that didn't get a whole lot of acclaim called The Judge, which I really enjoyed with Robert Downey Jr. and the great Bob Duvall. Jonathan Strong's in Succession. He's one of the sons, I believe. He's a great actor. So Succession is my next project, my next show that I'm jumping into. But I want to start the show talking about these programs because there's so much good content out right now. I haven't watched The Rings of Power yet. I plan to. Succession's 2 or 3 seasons in. I've never seen it. Yeah, that's a show that is widely popular and that I haven't dug into. There's more shows that I'm missing. The White Lotus season 2 comes out this Sunday. I watched season 1, and that's another show I'd recommend to people. I still really don't know what The White Lotus was all about. Watch it. If you have free time, you have Crave, you have HBO, give The White Lotus a watch. It is such an interesting series, and I still don't know if I don't think it's great, but I think it's compelling. The characters are compelling. There's some good-looking women as well on that show, so that can draw you in if you're a male viewer. I also think if you're a female, there's some good-looking men on that program, but that's not the main point of the show. But it's an interesting show nonetheless. But yeah, those are just a few of the shows that I have really dug into lately. Just some really top-notch content out in the world right now. Still waiting for Ted Lasso season 3. I don't know when that's going to come out, but I'm going to be diving into that. And I see Shamus is on the horn, and I just wanted to start the show talking about movies and such because there's just a lot of great content out right now. Bring Shamus in. Shay, I know you were talking earlier about what your viewing habits this weekend, and you went down a rabbit hole of a show that you thought I might enjoy.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, no, that was actually just a movie that I found on Amazon Prime. I was just kind of searching something on late night. I wasn't really interested in any of the games going on, so I just kind of threw something on, and it was a good movie. Anytime you get to see Philip Seymour Hoffman in a flick, it's always interesting because he's one of my favorite actors, I guess, from that era. So but like you said, lots going on. I'm still grinding through The Wire. What do you said you're on Ted Lasso, or you're waiting for Ted Lasso season 3?
Waiting for Ted Lasso. Yeah, I just got through Better Call Saul. I finished it last night.
Satisfying?
What's that?
Satisfying or?
Oh, extremely.
Okay.
Extremely.
Good.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the ending. Okay. It's a good way to wrap up the show. Really interesting way to wrap up the show. So, I really enjoyed Breaking Bad, but I was saying I didn't get a whole lot of sleep this week. I haven't got a whole lot of sleep lately. It's been a bit of a struggle on the home front here. But I've watched The Watcher, and I got through The Sinner season 4 this past weekend. So I got through some stuff.
Nice. See, I'm a big fan of The Sinner. That was one of my favorite shows. Me and Something Kennedy would watch kind of religiously every time we got a new season. So it's the last season kind of match up with everything that's happened in the 1 to 3, I guess.
Yes and no. Season 3 was really good. I found I love that one with Jamie and that whole scene. So there's some drawbacks to that. You get a few callbacks to that, but it's actually filmed in Nova Scotia, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's filmed in Nova Scotia, and it's an interesting story for sure. And there's also a few actors that you'll know from shows just from watching that play kind of secondary roles, but they've been in many things.
Okay, I'll have to give that a watch. It was already on my list, but now I'm a little bit more intrigued with what's going on.
How about yourself? What's other than Philip Seymour Hoffman films? I know Halloween's right up your alley. You like the costumes, you like the horror. Anything catching your? Have you seen the new Halloween yet?
No, I haven't seen. I'm really disconnected with that whole Halloween franchise. I mean, I'm glad it's ending. At least I hope it's not. If they have a movie that's called Halloween Ends, and then there's another one in 2-3 years, that's like the biggest slap in the face, I think, to
Right.
any franchise. But everywhere I review, like these movies, these Halloween movies, get like unbelievable reviews. Like they say they're really, really good. So yeah, that's maybe worth taking a peek into. But I'm really into this Barbarian movie. Have you seen any clips
I
or trailers
saw
of it?
it actually came up on my feed last night for Netflix. Yeah, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't even think it's on stream. It's still in theaters actually.
Oh, okay.
So
Then
it's
it's the
gonna,
different
but it
Barbarians.
is hitting streaming networks pretty soon, so it's gonna be on there. I'm very interested. That guy who plays the clown.
Yes.
He's
Yep.
a, he's he's a normal guy, but it's the same guy who plays it, and he's kind of got this creepy aura to him. So I'm interested to see. He's a decent actor, and he's in it. So I think there's some mischief going on with him. But yeah, look, go check it out if anyone looking for a good horror movie. I think you'd be interested by this one.
Right. Are you any costume parties this week?
No, now that I'm a house owner, it's kind of more about just sitting here waiting for the kiddies to come to the door and passing the treats. I think my Halloween days might be over, which is a sad thing to grip as an adult, but yeah, yeah. You never know. I guess later in life, you always have like adult Halloween parties and stuff like that. You might head to, but yeah,
Right.
no. This is one of the main years. Every year I've thought of ideas. Sometimes you never actually pull them off, but this is the first year I've actually not even thought of like a good Halloween costume. So yeah. What about you? You're not a big costume guy to begin with, but if you
No,
had to pull one off, what would you
it's
pull?
hard enough to be myself. I don't really want to be anybody else. So no Halloween parties for sure for
You know, a
me.
good costume would for you would be because you
What's
have
that?
it right. You have one right now as Ted Lasso. I think you chop the lettuce, you get the whistle, you kind of get all
Yeah.
proper, and then you keep the mustache groomed well.
Yeah,
That'd be a good wrestler
that's
costume.
not bad. Yeah, I could be a little Ted Lasso out there, go coach the kiddos there and start blowing the whistle at people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be good. That would be good. But I saw before we go into sports, I saw that Black Adam starring Dwayne
Mm.
the Rock Johnson has something to the like of 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, which
Oof.
Shay, I'll never see the movie, so I can't validate this opinion, but I'll have the opinion nonetheless.
Okay.
It's not a 90% movie. It's not. I can't fathom that.
Yeah. It says 39, so I
Oh,
think
I
it might have dropped in the originally. I'm
wait.
seeing 39% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's got a 7.1 on IMDb. So I mean that means that people like it. That's from what I get. There's a difference between the two networks, right? One's more critics, and the other is more enjoyability from the viewers. Average viewers, say me and you, who aren't writing up blogs and blogs about these movies. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, it was only a matter of time before The Rock joined this
Mhm.
franchise. If you think about it, like he was like big action star. He was made for this role.
Yes, yeah, I agree. It was only a matter of time. He kicked himself out of Fast and Furious, so he had to go somewhere else for crap.
Yeah,
And now
yeah.
it's here. Is I'm trying to think. I thought about this morning because I knew I was going to bring this up with you. The last Marvel movie I watched,
Uh oh.
and is Deadpool a Marvel movie? Or is that DC?
No, no, that's part of the DC universe. I think.
Okay,
I think so.
not it
Yeah.
then. um, I don't know. I don't know the last Marvel movie I've watched.
Um, did you watch the last Iron Man, the third one?
No,
No. Did you watch any of the Thor movies? Or
no,
somewhat? Okay. Oh Jesus. Oh, have you watched any of the Spider-Man movies? The new
no,
one with Tom Holland? No. Oh God. Yeah, I don't. And none of the Doctor Strange ones or anything like that.
no.
No, no.
It might
You're
have
really,
been
you're aging yourself.
Tobey Maguire, not no Garfield with the Jamie Foxx one,
Yeah, that's a while ago. That would have been us in high school, probably, maybe even a little bit before.
and that was crap.
Yeah, it's just decided not to go back ever since, huh?
I think I'd probably enjoy them, but what I hate about them is they're so predictable.
Right.
I Joker was so, as you know, I was kind of obsessed with that movie for a little while, and I just like the unpredictability of what's going to happen in a movie like that. Where if they made more villain movies, I think I'd be all in. It's all superheroes. Give me super villains. Give me somebody like a compelling villain, and I go see me and you go to theaters and grab a popcorn and fountain pop, and we'd sit there and enjoy it. But if I have to go see Doctor Strange with Benedict Cumberbatch and his little mustache, and I'm supposed to be afraid of him and Paul Rudd, Mister 50-year-old sexy guy, I'm not. Who's who's not beating those two guys in a fight? Like, come on.
Yeah, I can't speak to. I don't know how powerful they are. But yeah, I don't know. It is kind of ridiculous. They're just mass producing them to buy in these people. It's all real garbage in my opinion. But yeah, who knows? I have a list of MC movies I do want to watch just because I think they'd be interesting. I really like the Tom Holland ones. I think they were really interesting. The different insight on a Spider-Man movie. Like most of them are not. I wouldn't say generic, but like he just plays a different role to it. A younger, more I think not stubborn. I guess he just plays it differently, and I like that about him. He's young. He's making mistakes. He's kind of moving his way through, and like. Yeah, there's different aspects, and the villains always seem to be pretty decent in those movies. Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Keaton, just to name a few.
Is Planet of the Apes a superhero movie?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Why? Is that? Were you going to say that's the last one that you watched?
Well, I was going to think like it's like a superhero movie in a sense. It's got similar.
So let me ask you this then: are the humans the villains and the monkeys the heroes?
Absolutely, the humans are the villains. Yes.
Because sometimes the humans aren't doing anything wrong; they're just trying to survive, right?
Right.
They kind of get the.
Let me tell you this: Woody Harrelson is always a villain. It does not matter who's up against him. It does not matter who's up against Woody Harrelson. He will always be a villain to me.
There's a lot of talk right now, and I want to bring this up with you. I guess while we're just on the topic, and the best season ones of any show. What is the first one that comes to mind for you? Just additional season just hits it off with a bang. Can have a crappy ending. Like a lot of people say Lost. Yeah. Lost was a good season one, and it just trails off at the end. What do you think? What would yours be?
Initial thought that came to mind is Prison Break.
Yeah, a lot of people said that one too. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, that was.
Prison Break was a number.
Prison Break was season one was so great. If I'm thinking not Prison Break, I thought The Sopranos had a good first season.
Yeah. Kind of laid out some things. Everyone got good.
Kind of laid the groundwork, right, for what was going to happen. Season ones are sometimes the worst season of a show. For the great one, season one is sometimes the worst one because I think of Breaking Bad. It's only 6 episodes, but I wouldn't call it the greatest. It might be the worst season. It might be because I think 2 is great. 3 and 4 are awesome with Gus and everything. Ted Lasso's good. Season 1 wrote me. I went in with the most possible scrutiny. I'm like, I'm gonna hate this show, and I said, God damn it, I love it.
Anyways, one of the reasons I bring it up is because collectively, a lot of people, and I'd say it was majority rules, say that one of the best season ones of all time is True Detective season 1 with your 2 favorite actors, Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. Would you ever consider giving that a watch, or because it's just those two characters, 2 actors, you would just never ever look at it?
I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it. Okay. And what were your thoughts?
It's them,
Are you being harsh because it's them, or are you being harsh because you didn't like it?
I think it's a good show. Like I didn't love the show because again, there's different actors all the time. I think they tried to be Fargo in a sense.
Right.
Fargo season 1, another great season 1.
Good show, yeah.
I think they tried to be Fargo a little because didn't they have a season with The Rock or another person like that? Or
I'm not familiar. I've never watched it. I've never watched it. I'm very intrigued. I want to watch the first.
I watched the first one, and then I kind of tailed off from there. Let me pivoting back.
Okay.
Is Black Panther
Yeah.
Marvel movie.
It is. Yeah.
I watched that.
Okay.
I did
So that'll
watch.
be your last one. That's old when the second one's like right around the corner.
Well, the
Like when
reason I remember that now is I watched it about a week after the lead actor. I know
Chadwick
his name.
Boseman.
Chadwick Boseman passed away,
Right.
and I didn't think about seeing it, but I really grew an appreciation for him as an actor and as a person because he battled through cancer and nobody knew, and I just felt I've seen him in things before, and I thought he was a pretty good actor. Seemed like a good guy, but I did watch Black Panther, and I'll probably watch the second one because I saw him in the first. I just wanted to watch it more of a ode to him in watching that film. So I watched that during the pandemic, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's around the same. I watched it too, like in 2020 when everything was going on, and just give it to. I'd like to get back into those movies, but sometimes it's hard because like what order do you watch them in, and yeah,
Right.
it's pretty messy. Yeah.
Is Black Panther morphed in with anything yet, like Superman or Batman or anything?
Well, he's it's so hard to get into. So he was in the battle like in this like how there's the last Avengers movie. There's like two of them. There's two
Sure.
really big movies. Yeah, he's in
Oh yeah,
both of
yeah.
those.
Endgame and
Yeah, Infinity
okay.
War, I think it's called or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'd be in both of those movies as well. And I think it was actually filmed with Chadwick Boseman. I don't think it was like a CGI thing.
Okay. Interesting. With the big Thanos.
Yeah, Josh Brolin. Yeah.
That's who played Thanos, really. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. If you listen to his voice, if you just close your eyes and listen to his voice, you're like, oh yeah, that is him. But like you can't tell with all the
Right.
He's like a thumb. He's just like a big scary thumb in that whole franchise, which is not really that scary when you think about it.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't spark fear in me, Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
I feel like you could read an audiobook and you feel pretty good about yourself.
Yeah. Good way to fall asleep. Maybe that's what you need.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
Yeah. Josh Brolin, yeah, that might be it. That might be it.
And the cowboy went to the stove. Okay, Josh.
So pivoting from all that, but that's interesting. I needed to learn some of that stuff because the only thing in theaters now are Marvel movies, for Christ's sake. Everything else is just hit streaming, which is fine by me. It saves me some cash. So where do you want to start? Basketball or hockey? Because you weren't on last week, and
I know so much to talk about right now, and my mind is just racing.
Let's start last night with your Leafs. They dropped one in Vegas. They're now 4-3 on the season. Overall thoughts on your team's start to the season?
Well, my overall thoughts is that they're not coming out of the gate running, but they're also surviving is the best way of putting it. They're just kind of surviving right now. They're in that 500 range, but could anyone, like I could have predicted the minute Kyle Dubas signed Matt Murray that he was going to be injured probably within a couple weeks. And that's exactly what happened. The saving grace is that Samsonov has actually played pretty decent.
Yep.
Like without Samsonov, I don't think they win the game against Dallas. I don't think they win the game before that, which I can't remember who they were playing. They might even lost. They might have
lost to Arizona.
Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's been not bad, and he's actually looked pretty calm. I didn't get to watch the game last night, obviously because it was a little too late. But I did watch the highlights, and he made a lot of really good saves, and he looked pretty calm in net. The problem is that he took too many shots on net, which I think is going to be this team's biggest issue for the beginning of the year. No Muzzin. You've talked about this week already. I don't have to reiterate what's going on, but their D-core is just so weak. But like, it's even if they get Liljegren and Muzzin back, is it even going to be enough? Like you couldn't look me in the face without lying and tell me that this is a D-core worth winning a championship. Not after the last couple of years, after seeing the teams that have to fight through those and the makeup of all those blue lines. Like that's just not going to work on this one, and that's why I think something bigger has to change, really.
Yeah, the Muzzin injury can be a good thing or a bad thing. $5.8 million off the books obviously frees up room to call up Mete and different players because you had no money before. But long term, if you don't have a player like a Jake Muzzin, your team's in tough because Liljegren, Sandin, they're basically right now. I think they're very similar. I don't think Sandin's any better than Liljegren the way I've seen it. including last night. I couldn't sleep, so I watched the game. And it was Sandine and Hall, and the whole game they were stuck in their own zone. They couldn't get the puck out of their zone. They were having trouble moving the puck. Hall is a big part of that problem. The guys had a horrible start to the season, and if they had anybody that it was any good available, he'd probably already be sitting for a game. But unfortunately, with injuries to Ben and to Liljegren, they don't have that option at the moment. Yeah, defensively, I agree with you about Samsonov. He's playing good hockey. Now, up front, Matthews has 1 goal in 7 games. And it's not panic button. And I've downplayed this, but as games go by, Shay, 1 goal in 7 games, that's not nothing. You know, if we've seen guys go in these streaks and they'd be, oh, this guy's in trouble. I don't see that from anybody in the media or people talking about it. But 1 goal in 7 games is something to mark down now with 34.
I agree. And I was saying this. I was watching the Winnipeg game this weekend with a crowd, and I said I think he almost looks like he's a little banged up, but they're not really addressing that issue because of the state that the team's in right now. They know they're going to need him in order to win games, because if you take him out, then that leaves a big hole in the middle that is frankly already really, really weak. Yeah, so I said there was a couple times in Dallas games he was coming back to the bench and he just didn't look comfortable, quite frankly. And I think that's what's going on, or at least that's what I want to think is going on, because if he's healthy and he's not tucking any goals, then there's a bigger issue. But like you said, you watched the game last night. What kind of impact did he have on playing against Vegas? Because from the highlights, it looked like he did nothing.
I thought Saturday he had a really good game. I thought it was one of his best games of the season. He didn't score, but he played well in his own zone. He did good things to impact. And yeah, he had 3 assists also. He didn't do much last night. It seems one game he's great. The next game he's kind of invisible. Marner too. The Nylander-Tavares line has been by far the better line comparing the two of them.
It's surprising.
Yes, extremely. And unfortunately for Matthews and Marner, who've had kind of slow starts, below them, Pierre Engvall is a human, just a voodoo doll. He's 6'4", 220, who plays with no physicality. He drives me nuts watching him play. And Wayne Simmons was actually a good addition, but Aubé-Kubel hasn't had much of an impact. The bottom 2 lines have been really quiet, 5-on-5. Kerfoot might score a power play goal every now and then, but they're not getting consistent production from their bottom 6 in the first 7 games.
Yeah, all those names you just listed are all the names I have down in front of me of guys who just need to pick it up. Like, it's not like these guys haven't played in the system. Like, Kerfoot and Engvall have been here for years. Like, what's just because you're playing maybe with a new guy doesn't mean that you're totally run out of the system to play. Like, you guys have to figure it out basically, because it's just not good. Like, I think at one point Keeps is playing with putting Kerfoot on the 4th line because he's just not able to do anything. Yeah, I mean, it's been a problem. Unfortunately, Calle Yarncrook, who I thought was going to come in and be a good addition, guy who maybe could put in the odd goal here and there, he's not done that. He only has 1 goal in 7 games as well. And I mean, your boy Nick Robertson, he's doing what he intended, and that's not playing much defense, but just being an offensive guy on the top 6, which, I mean, we've screamed for years that's what he's got to be. He can't be a 3rd liner. He can't be a 4th liner. He's got to be a top 6 guy, and he's not going to give you much. And you go to D-line, man, the Riley and Brody D-line, that was hurting last night. Like, they did not play well. They were rolling for a couple goals, and I get it, you're playing more, but I mean, I don't know. Like, if you can't help out your goalie, like, why should he be helping you out and bailing you out every other play? Doesn't make much sense to me.
Are you of the opinion that Samsonov in this next stretch could play so well that when Matt Murray comes back, it's not even a competition, it's Samsonov's net until he gets it up?
I believe so, yeah. I wouldn't give Murray. I realize there's a certain amount of not pressure, I guess, but loyalty from Dubas, thinking, okay, well, I brought this guy in. I was the one who did that. But if you got to go with the guy who's playing well at the moment, right now, I think that's Samsonov. I have no reason to believe that you should just hand it back over to Murray because, quite frankly, I mean, he wasn't great in the Montreal game. His glove was awful, let's be honest. They just put it by him, no problem. And yeah, you maybe got to let him sit on the bench, get his reps, and he'll find a time when Samsonov's not great, and he can divert into that and become even if it's a tandem for a little bit, and then that way you have a little competition, maybe gets both guys compete levels up, and then they really battle it out for who's going to be first. But right now, it's Samsonov's net 100%.
Who's been the most impressive team in the Atlantic?
The Sabres, big time. Yeah, I had them on my list earlier. I know that we talk about hot topics, but God, it's strange to see them beat both Edmonton and Calgary. Yeah, choo choo train. You might have to stop watching them because if they start getting good,
they keep winning.
Yeah, but no, I mean they'll return back to earth here shortly, hopefully. But they've been great. I mean, 4 wins, and they win again last night. I think was that no
they beat Van Saturday. They got
that's what it was. Yeah, so they win, and I think they play again tonight. And they're doing well, and there's multiple highlights. You were calling me about guys. Obviously, you said Eric Comrie. I've heard you talk about him before. He's good. There's a D-man on there you like too. I forgot his name, Nick. No, that's on Columbus. Sorry,
That's Columbus.
When I get my teams mixed up, can't give that one away. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot to like about this team, and I think what's most interesting is they've got so much spunk, and they're so youthful, and they're excited to be there. Tuck's goal was really, really nice. I don't know if anyone saw that. And yeah, we'll get to Vancouver in a second, but
Dahlin too. Goals in 5 straight. Like he's starting to put it together. Like he feels like the guy that you wanted early in the draft. Like he's playing really confident. He looks like a different player. And I credit Don Granato. Like sometimes it's just about belief and coming in and just playing with no fear, which I think they do. You beat Edmonton, you beat Calgary, and that's tough. Western Canada early in the year, you get one home game and then you have to go on the road and you get the job done. So, kudos to Buffalo, like you said. I think they've been really good. Boston has also really impressed me early in the year. They aren't going away. They're missing McAvoy and they're missing Marchand, and they're playing really, really good hockey, and they have a lot of potential upside that they have to put it together. I still have my doubts about some of their forwards, but they look good early in the year.
Pasta, your boy. Mm-hmm. He's dialed in right now, and he's a driving force on everything that's going on offensively for this team. I'm the first to raise my hand and say I was wrong about this team. I immediately thought they were going to be garbage. I thought bringing Krejci back wasn't a good move, but
still might not be.
What?
You don't got to back off that take yet. Still might not be a good idea.
Well, at least to begin the season, I was wrong because I got Boston fans all over me all the time. Oh, that was a bad take. You shit. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like,
it's going to be
5 games of the season. Well, we'll see what happens when we're.
My take too. So it's going to be a good one.
But hey, I fully agree. Things have looked pretty good for old Boston, and I'm a fan of the grittiness on the back end. I don't always love the guys back there. I'm not a big Derek Forbort guy, but if you ask me if I could trade Derek Forbort for Justin Hall right now, I would do that without even thinking twice about it. No repercussions on the salary or anything. So, yeah, love what's going on there. And Sens, too. I mean, you knew they were going to have this spunk of offense. I don't know, you talked about it this week. They're lacking on the back end, and they got to chip in more when it comes to defensive play. But really, this run and gun style has been good. I mean, your boy Timmy Stu, he's played really well as a distributor, and they'll love that. He's kind of finding that role as a guy who knows he's playing with goal scorers and Norris and DeBrincat and Kachuk, and if he can be a solid distributor every time, and he's going to make a lot of. Well, he already is going to make a lot of money, but he's going to be a really good player for a long time if he can do that still.
Yeah, I mean, those two teams in Tampa and Florida are just kind of there. They're like the Leafs, just hanging around. But those two sleeping giants can wake up at any time as well. So Atlantic is loaded. Let's get to the panic button. Yes, it's Tuesday. The season is only a couple weeks in, but there is massive panic in Canada, and for once, for good reason. The Vancouver Canucks are 0-5-2, but in Noah Warren's math, that's 0-7 because that means you haven't won a game. Okay, you got your 2 little points lost in a gimmick. Get the fuck out of here. You're 0-7. I watched parts of that game last another third period collapse where they just don't come out to play in the third period. They get outshot 39-16. This team, they just don't believe they can win. I honestly watch them and I see they give up a 2-1 goal and it was as if that's it. The game's over. We can't overcome this. They have poor body language. It looks like Luke Shen and JT Miller are going to get in a fight every time they're on the ice together. Just to quote millennials galore, there's just some bad vibes in Vancouver right now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how you don't hit the panic button at this time. When they were even, I'd say a few days ago when they were 0-5, I was like, you know what, like they'll break that. Like that's not going to be that bad. Now I'm like, yeah, it's probably getting to the point where Vancouver can. And like, I don't agree with the jersey thrown on the ice and all that, and I understand the frustration. Okay, let's just say it. I think out of all the fans, I think Vancouver's got some of the worst fans in the league. I don't care if they think they're passionate or think they're me. No, those guys are assholes most times than not. I mean, you've seen it. You see what they did to their city. They've got no respect. But yeah, the team is fighting for their lives at this point. I mean, you're right. Like they're all frustrated with themselves, but then also with one another, which I don't think helps the situation. I fully believe Demko's a good goalie, but I feel like he's just getting rained on by shots every night that he just doesn't survive a chance. Yeah, he's going to let off the bad goal, but like, what are you going to do to help that? Are you going to lay down for a block? Are you going to actually maybe try in your own end, or
Right.
are you just going to do the skate around? Maybe hit the back of the leg with the skate, take a bat. Like I'm telling you right now, the Mikheyev, I know he has a point, but like it might be the only point he gets this year because he looks that poor. I think
He hasn't played a good game yet. He looks awful.
terrible. For a guy who makes $5 million, it's like you might as well just donated that to Vancouver Children's Hospital because that must have been one of the worst signings in the league. Like, kudos for Dubas for not signing that guy, I guess, in a way. But yeah, I mean, you've seen it. It's not just management; it's ownership. I never knew this until I took a little review and a little back. But the guy who owns the Vancouver Canucks doesn't really have a hockey background, which is fine. But you also, knowing that, you can't be very hands-on with your franchise, right? And I feel like he's the guy who pushed the JT Miller signing. He's the guy who is, he doesn't want to rebuild because he knows that'll lose himself money.
Right.
You're probably a billionaire, let's be honest. Like, you can afford to lose a couple bucks so your team can maybe thrive again. And I think at this point, it's getting towards the fact that they might actually just have to blow it up, keep a few pieces, and then start the rebuild.
I agree. Horvat will get you a lot because Horvat's actually playing well.
He's got like 5 or 6 goals.
Yeah, he's playing real well. Connor Garland, if you could trade him, somehow do it. You might have to eat some of that salary. It's in year two of a long contract, and but he's been a healthy scratch already this year. So it's bad, not good with Connor Garland. Although we did score the other night. So if you get off him, defense, I don't know who you're going to trade. Tyler Myers, nobody's taking that contract, and nobody's taking Tyler Myers or that contract. I mean, you got Quinn Hughes locked up. You have JT Miller locked up. You have Pedersen locked up. You have Demko locked up. So you have a core. They're similar to Montreal, where it's hard to rebuild because you have so many contracts long term, and if you're rebuilding, you kind of have to get rid of Pedersen. You kind of have to get rid of some of these pieces, but I don't want to part with Elias Pedersen if I'm Vancouver, even though I'm thinking about rebuilding.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, it's either you're all in or you're all out, in my opinion. You can't just be midway because now at the point your young stars are no longer getting young. I mean, they're at the age where they're supposed to be stars. Let's just call it like Pedersen. And like, we haven't even touched on him, but Brock Besser, my God, this guy he's been terrible. I mean, I think he got away with it last year. Now it's starting to catch on that this guy just his give a shit level sometimes it's just not there.
Right.
And I like him. He's got a good story. I think he can be a really good player, an effective player. But at this point, I think he's on a short-term deal. I think you look at sending him to a better place and somewhere to get him a better fit because he doesn't even want to seem to be there.
No, he doesn't care enough. He just too many times he's just lost in the shuffle. He's lost in the play. He loses defensive assignments. Incredibly frustrating player to watch. He's got all kinds of skill. Kuzmenko has been a bit of a flop so far. He hasn't jumped off the page. Shocker, KHL signing. Yeah, but also Quinn Hughes gets hurt, so now you got to add another defenseman and Tucker Poolman gets hurt. So they got Guillaume Brossois playing last night, and they got Kyle Burrows, not at Alex Burrows, Kyle, and just a bunch of just crap defensemen, quite frankly. The fact that they're clamoring for Travis Dermott to return from IR is a sad state of affairs in Vancouver. They got Seattle Thursday. Do they win that game?
I'm going to say no.
So they they lose their first 8.
I think they lose in overtime too. It's something crazy like overtime or the gimmick or something like that, and it just makes it's just like hot sauce on the wound. It's right. Just going to be demonstrable.
Do they fire Bruce Boudreau?
I think they're going to get to a point this year, especially like maybe midway to the point where they're just so like out of the playoffs and like it's not even a thought anymore. They're like, okay, like what do we do? But like, it's not Boudreau's fault either. Like, yeah, he might be more offense, and maybe that's the struggle for the defensive side of things right now. But like, he's not on the ice. Like, I'm sure his give a shit level is probably a lot higher than most of these players.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I do think he gets canned during this year, especially if they can't turn it around.
Let me ask you this little quiz. How many minutes is Shane Wright averaging per game?
I'm going to say 6 to 8.
It's 5:30.
5:30? Oh, jeez. It's bad when I thought mine was extremely low. So, yeah, I mean, there's no point in keeping him up there. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
They have a good little team. I watched a lot of their highlights so far this year, and they're interesting, but you're not doing Wright any favors. I think you've got to let him develop. You have to send him down to OHL at this point, and he's not going to like it.
Yeah,
and his family's probably not going to like it because they seem very vocal. But you just got to do what you got to do, and I think at this point it's the best for his development.
Yeah, I think it's a simple one. I don't think he should have made the team. But if you're going to play a guy 5 minutes, I don't understand why you keep him.
Well, you're doing him no favors, right? Like you like what is being around the team and like going to team dinners and like shaking hands and shaking babies. Is that like
tracking Kingston in the O, and they got a good team. So I don't think he'll be traded, but maybe they tear it up and he gets traded to a contender, and then he could compete for an OHL title, potentially Memorial Cup, go play for Canada at the World Juniors, which he did not get the ability to do in Edmonton this summer. He come here to the Maritimes. But yeah, also, do you find it funny how that's not talked about in the media at all, about how few minutes he's playing and about how really ineffective he's been? Because you never hear anything about it up here.
Yeah, and you mean because it's a Western thing? It's because it's the States?
I think there's a couple things. I have this. I call it the Ontario tax. That's my term. So Seattle doesn't help, but it's also he's 4th overall pick. He's from Canada. He's from Ontario. So you'd think maybe we'll track this guy. You hear about Slafkovsky every day, about his upper body injury and how he's not fitting in, although Slafkovsky scored a goal and Shane Wright hasn't. But I think Shane Wright's getting protected by the media in part because he's from Ontario and because that just you don't like to write negative stuff about the high draft picks from Ontario. If this was Nate McKinnon in his first year and he was kind of struggling in Colorado, we heard about it. Guess what? He was a Maritimer. Slafkovsky is struggling. He's from Slovakia. Nolan Patrick was from Brandon, Manitoba. He couldn't have had a worse first season. Nico Heischer's a bust, first overall pick from Switzerland. You heard all about these high draft picks. Shane Wright, we haven't heard a peep nationally from Sportsnet or the 3-letter about Shane Wright.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I'm not one that looks for that kind of thing. Like I'm not out in the media thinking like, oh, No, what are they writing about Shane today? But you're absolutely right. I haven't seen anything on social media. I haven't seen anything on any blogs about this guy. And I mean, it's still early into the year. Let's be honest. Like, we're only 4 or 5 games. Maybe if it gets to 10 and his minutes stay that low, maybe it's like, okay, they start to pipe up a little bit. But yeah, this Ontario bubble that you've kind of formed him in, that could be a possibility. I thought it's because he was in Seattle, and like most players in Seattle, you kind of forget about them, whether they're good or not. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't heard anyone talk about how bad Grubauer is, because it's just like, oh, he's in Seattle. Well, I didn't even know. But
more Seattle news of the day. Grubauer got put on IR today.
I'm not too surprised about that. He's
Martin Jones, new goaltender, won.
Yeah. I watched the highlights of that game. I don't know if you saw that, the Chicago and Seattle game. That was interesting. Matty Beniers, though, tucked one in. Good old plug.
Well, Sam Lafferty, Chicago, big comeback win, 5-4.
Is that your guy?
It's a little Sunday afternoon matinee. I threw it on for a couple minutes. Watched that.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think it is better for his development. I think he needs to get down there, and I guess when I say down there, to the OHL, but we'll see. I mean, it's kind of like up to their pride, and see what they want to do.
Most impressive team in the Metro?
Oof. I would say the Flyers, but I'm really liking the way. I know that they lose last night, but the Pens have been good.
Yep.
Pens have been good. Like, I think there's some, when Jari is on, it feels like he can be a top, I won't say top 5, but I'm going to say he can be like a top 8 goalie in the league.
Agreed.
Like, he does have that in him. And, I'm skeptical about Jeff Petrie and his role with the team, but he's just been okay. I wouldn't say that he's been outperforming his salary and what he's expected to do there, but he's been all right. And yeah, I mean, yeah, they're a deep team, but like you said, I didn't have any real expectations for them. But if they can get off to this hot start, and they're a veteran type team, they can probably keep that going for most part of the year. Unlike these younger teams, like a Buffalo, then I fully believe that they'll be 1 or 2 in that division. I think I had them 3 though when I did my initial one.
Yeah, they've really impressed me to start the year. Raquel is Crosby's new guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's not just an player, but Crosby makes them into greats. Like, Raquel's starting to score, he's starting to get points, he's being productive. Gensel's got 3 game-winning goals, which leads the National Hockey League to start this season. Crosby's got 11 points. He's second in the league in points behind your boy Panarin. So, they really impressed me. And they blew up last night against Edmonton, but that was also Leon Draisaitl winning that game last night for them.
He was incredible.
In that second period, he said, "Screw this. McDavid's banged up. This is my night," and he took that game over. He willed that win for Edmonton. It was an impressive individual display because he was a man on a mission last night.
Yeah. That pass, like it was a seam. I think it was like a no-look pass to Evander Kane in front of the net, and he got an easy shot off. That is just stuff. He wasn't looking at Evander Kane. He just knows where he is. You know what I mean? It's a backhanded pass right in front of the net. Kane's good enough. He's going to get a good look, and he's going to shoot. And yeah, that's his game. It's just being open. And if he can be open, and he keeps on this line with Draisaitl, he's going to score 40, 45 goals this year probably.
And I think that's another thing. I think Matthews and McDavid can be lumped together. I think they're both pressing a little bit. I think they have high expectations for this season.
Yeah, for sure.
And both are getting points, but again, McDavid's got 10 points, which is a good start. But he went pointless last night in a 6-3 win, which is rare to see for an Edmonton victory when McDavid isn't part of it. But I think he's pressing a little bit to be part of the offense, to get a whole lot of points, to be a solution, the biggest solution on this team, where I think if he just gets back to his game a little bit more, they'll have more success moving forward.
Yeah, I think for his sake, I mean, now there's this expectation, okay, we went to the conference final and, we got dusted, but we got there. What's our next level? And obviously there's only one stage above that, right? So I think that's got to be on his mind a little bit, is the city's expectations of what he's going to be able to do. But at the end of the day, it all comes to a second season. And if you play, even if you don't make the first seed in in the Pacific Division does not mean that you're not going to be there. I mean, you can make second or third and still be a strong team.
Right. We're in the NHL through the first couple weeks.
Pardon? I think you cut up there for a second.
Worst team in the NHL.
Oh, worst. That's no doubt that it's our favorite Vancouver Canucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you think of a worse team?
Arizona's bad.
Yeah, but it's almost like that.
It's really bad too. San Jose is bad.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. They did win against the Flyers, but like that almost felt like the Flyers had to lose at some point. More than the San Jose had to win.
Right.
I don't know. The Sharks, they can't really do much. They got to just kind of blow it up because I mean, like, what are they going to win with this core group of players? No, that's not going to happen. Like, I mean, we already spoke about this in the preseason, but I'm at the point now where I'm like, if you could trade Couture now before he starts to age and his value decreases for what he's making, you'd be able to maybe make a lot of, like, you'd be able to get a lot for him. I realize he's not the player he was 3-4 years ago when, he was a dynamic two-way center, but still, like, you got to get rid of him sooner because he's now entering into his, I would say, mid to early 30s, and he's going to depreciate quickly from what we've seen, right?
And he's a gamer in the playoffs. That like he's been a great playoff performer throughout his career.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he's not going to make the playoffs anytime soon.
No.
Maybe for his sake, he says, I don't want to see anymore. Just get me out of here.
If he stays in San Jose the rest of his career, the rest of his contract, I'm not sure they make the playoffs. That's how bad their team is.
Yeah, and he's got 5-6 years left on that deal.
I don't know if they do because that is such an awful situation. There's no worse situation than that. Arizona's a better situation. At least they don't got bad contracts on their books. Yeah. They just got a bunch of crap that nobody wants, but they're better off to be competitive sooner than San Jose. Let's go to the NBA.
Okay.
Where your Celtics are off to a good start. They're 3-1. They're playing good basketball. The Utah Jazz are 3-1, and also the San Antonio Spurs are 3-1. Portland's 4-0. Biggest surprise so far through the first couple, week and change of the NBA season.
I would say, I gotta say Utah. It's just interesting that the compete level is there with the players. Like, I'm sure Utah's management is probably furious because they're playing so well, and they want to be a lottery team probably. But yeah, I mean they're good. Like, because who did they beat? They beat the Nuggets and they beat
the Nuggets. They beat the Grizzlies, I believe.
Like, teams that are above their standard by any means. But yeah, I love it. I hope that Lauri Markkanen finds a home there. He's a guy who's bounced around, unfortunately, Bulls, Cleveland, and now he's going to be there. I think he's a really good player. He had a really good year last year, and I think this is kind of like, okay, this is a chance where Mitchell's gone, Gobert's gone. There's like, this could be my team.
Right.
Do I think he's going to be a superstar player? No. But do I think he wants to be the guy, the number one guy? Absolutely, and I think he can do that there. Big finish, mother effer.
I watched a bit of that Heat game last night against the Raptors, and the Heat are 1-3. I watched them on offense, and they don't really have an identity. It's just find a guy, shoot a three. I don't see a guy that, Kyle Lowry's not really the floor general anymore. Tyler Hero seems to be wanting to morph into that role, and he's actually playing some pretty good basketball. I think he's improved year over year, but the Heat are 1-3, and they don't scare me as a team. And I had them making the play-in, I believe. I had them getting 7th in the East in my preseason prediction. But I don't love their offense. Their offensive identity, Bam is still passive as hell, which is frustrating. And I just didn't find they have much of an identity, very much in comparison to the Raptors, who I think know who they are.
Yeah, I can see that. I have more faith. I think that the Heat will bounce it around just because it's so early into the year. But you're right. Like, the floor, when it comes to floor general and guys who are bringing it up, it seems like it can be any of them. You know what I mean? I'm sure Bam probably brought it up a couple times last night. But you're right. You have to pick your guy. If Jimmy wants to do that, I don't. And Tyler would think that I don't agree with that, but if he wants to be the guy to bring it up and then pass it off, and then whatever he wants to hit the post, which he can be a dominant player in it, depending on who he's matched up against, he should do that. But other than that, yeah, you're right. I don't know if Tyler Hero is the guy and he becomes the guy who brings it down, gets the screen, and maybe he can jack up a three, which he loves to do. Mm-hmm. Then maybe that's kind of their thing. They have out rebounded. There's times where they're out rebounding Toronto heavy last night, which is kind of a given because I don't think Toronto really has a number one center on their franchise right now. But yeah, like I'm not sure what they want to be either, but I think they will figure it out soon enough. Because, I mean, this team's too good. This is a team that was in the finals a few years ago. I know it's the Mickey Mouse finals with the Lakers and all that, but still, I think
Jimmy Butler 3 away from beating your Celtics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, they are still a great team, and I think they'll figure it out sooner rather than later. I love, the Gabe Vincents, the Max Strusses. The team is built well, and I think they just have to focus on a few things, like who's bringing the ball up and what kind of formation we want to do. And because the problem with Bam, like, he's a good player and he's athletic as hell, which I think is scary for most because he just can blow by other defenders who are slower. But sometimes it just doesn't always work out, and sometimes he just seems to pick the wrong times to drive to the net.
Right. What have you made of your Celtics so far?
Great. Yeah, no, I think they're good. Like you talked about it, Tatum. He told Joel, I'm coming for that MVP. And I think he's played up to that caliber so far. He's been really, really good. Obviously, last night doesn't quite get it done, but I don't think that's all on him. I think Brown's had a kind of a shaky last couple games where he's jacking up shots. He's missing free throws layups for that matter. And I think he just needs to kind of tone it down. I know he wants to be the big dog, but I think he also has to trust his teammates and pass the ball a little bit more. And the fact that they're looking this good without no Time Lord, Robert Williams, I think is a great sign. Because if he comes back healthy, gets himself fixed up, and he can be a presence defensively, then there's some really good things that are going to come to this team. I'm still worried about the bench a little bit, but I think they'll figure that out too.
Yeah, I like their team. They're good. They look really strong to start. And that was their third game in 4 nights last night. So they're going to be tired early in the season.
Yeah. What do you think their biggest weakness is? Like as of right now, and you could say if Time Lord wasn't there, I guess. And
so I think not having him certainly hurts because I don't think they have a real center that you trust, and I think that burned them a little bit against Golden State at times because you have. Looney's not the biggest center in the world. He's more of a power forward, but he's got a knack for getting rebounds and extending possessions. Mm-hmm. So that can be problematic against the Celtics because it forces Tatum to become a rebounder, kind of the primary rebound guy, which can in turn kind of wax his energy a little bit because I think he's played really good defense to start the season as well. He's playing really well on both ends. He clearly wants that MVP. I think it's a chip on the shoulder. And I think he wants to validate himself a little bit, which good for him. But the teams that can rebound against, Philly's had a tough start, and I get people are kind of panicking about the 76ers. They're 1-3. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're a good team, and I think the Sixers and Celtics are both really good teams. And I think with Embiid, that's a tough matchup if you don't have somebody that can guard him and rebound against the Sixers, who I think are going to be a pretty decent rebounding team.
Yeah, I missed that last year in the playoffs, but we'll see if he comes back again. Kudos to Vucevic too, 23 rebounds. That's a good night.
Yeah, Precious Achiuwa had 22 last night for the Raptors.
Yes, yeah. He's I don't have him down as a sixth man, but he is very interesting because he logs in a lot of minutes for that team, and I think he's going to be important, especially if they don't find another center to in that role.
Yeah, they beat the Heat last night without Scotty Barnes, which is an impressive one as well, because obviously he's the most important person on that team, in my opinion. Just how much upside he has. Orlando hasn't won a game yet, but Banchero already looks like a 28-year-old pro.
Some good things happening. Your boy. I was very skeptical about this pick and him being uno numero, but Yeah, I mean he's proven he's ready, and I mean he looked dominant in college. He looked great in the March Madness tournament last year.
Yeah.
But I still had my skepticisms about him. But he's basically proven me and probably a lot of other people wrong. He's going to be a dominant player for a long time to come, I think. And right now, obviously, he's not seeing the success when it comes to the team, but I think they will kind of rejuvenate around him. They've got some good players. They're not just a throwaway team anymore.
Are the Lakers in big trouble?
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna have to go. Sorry, Walker, if you're listening or watching this, but yeah, they're awful. I shouldn't say they're awful because it's not like they're getting blown out.
Right.
But if you're not winning close games like you are against Portland, then what are you doing? Like that was their game to lose, and they handed it to Damian Lillard and said, "Yeah, you can take this one. Like, welcome back, Dame. We'll give it to you. You know, you've been gone for a little while."
He looks good too, Dame.
He dropped 40 and it looked effortless.
Yeah.
Effortless. And the league's a better league when Damian Lillard plays. I give him
Agreed.
that.
Yep.
And it's been too long since Portland's been that playoff, dominant team. I love their backcourt, Lillard and Simmons. I think they can do some real damage. They look really, really lethal together. And Nurkic, if he stays healthy, is going to be one of the best big men in the league. Sneaky big man in the league, too. Like, I think he can be a very big presence there. But yeah, going back to LA, I mean, they're just in trouble constantly. It's almost a joke. It's like it's a running joke for 2 years now that the Lakers are just like they're kind of just the circus of the NBA that just
Right.
kind of goes around, and they've got jugglers and all kinds of different things.
Does Westbrook take too much of the blame?
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, he is getting paid a lot of money for not a lot of anything
Production.
going on. Yeah, and his post, like, I don't know, and
His
he's too.
posts are always hilarious to me.
Yeah. Well, it's like he doesn't know what's going on. It's so weird. It's like, can't you own up to the fact that you're maybe like not producing the way you should be?
Right.
He just doesn't see it that way, which is kind of interesting. It's like kind of playing a blind eye to your game.
Plus, they can't trade for Miles Turner and Hield anymore because Miles Turner got hurt.
Yeah. Was that still an option on the table?
It was reported last night by I forget who, it might have been Shams Charania of the Athletic, that they're willing to trade their 2027 and 2029 first round picks to get off Russ. Already 3 games in, sounding the alarm.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. It is only 3 games in. I think you have to wait for a real panic button. I think for these guys, I think they have to wait 3 seasons because not 3 seasons, 3 or 4 more games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I don't think the Western Conference isn't what it was 5-6 years ago when it was really tough to get in. You had the old LA Lakers, we'll say. You had the Spurs, who were dominant. You had the young Oklahoma City team. You had an array of what's that? Portland, Dallas. They were both good teams. Like, it's not that competitive as it used to be, but I mean, I didn't think it was too competitive last year, and they barely they didn't even sneak into the play-in, did they?
No, they didn't make the play-in.
So yeah, I think they can do better, and a large part of that is getting AD back. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a hopeful romantic here, hopeless romantic, and saying that I want them back in.
I was so in love with the Pelicans, and I love watching them, and I bet on them with the futures to over on the wins, and then Brandon Ingram gets a concussion, Zion gets hurt predictably, and I still bet on them because the world hates me.
You bet on them after those?
I bet on them before the season.
Over before the season.
Yeah, I bet them, and I bet Sacramento and the over. I'm still confident with that. Sacramento will find it.
Okay.
And I have Sacramento making the play-in as well. It's another future that I have. But Pelicans lose those 2 guys, and it's crippling because BI is truly morphed into one of the best players in the NBA, and Zion has all the potential to leap into a top 15, top 20 player in the NBA as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think We talked about it earlier in the summer about getting the not the super max, but getting the max deal for Zion. I didn't agree with it for this reason, because you're paying a guy a lot of money not to play. I am fully on board with, he got his health around. He looks much healthier. He looks slimmer. And I think a lot of that has to do with the critique of his weight over the last few years and his inability to be, I guess, on the court. But now he is, and he still is getting hurt. So maybe it's less about him as an individual, and it's kind of bad luck that Orr's around him. Ingram, I think, will make it back. I mean, a concussion, he's probably only out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's, concussion's always kind of week to week. You're monitoring it and seeing when the symptoms decrease.
Yeah, I'm hopeful in saying that he'll be back in maybe 2.5 weeks, but for your over's sake on your futures bet. But yeah, I don't think you hit the panic button with these guys either. Maybe you don't get into the high seed, but for these guys, I think it's just about making it into the playoffs. Hopefully, getting in like a 7th or 8th seed. And
I just find them so fun to watch, New Orleans. I watched the first couple of games, and they had Dallas tonight, which I thought was another fun game. Dallas Luka's had a hot start. I don't think Dallas's roster is as good. I don't think they're as good a team as they were last year, quite frankly. But not having a fully healthy Pelicans gives the edge to the Mavericks tonight in a big way.
Yeah, I agree. They'll probably get steamrolled, but who knows? That's the beauty of it. You think the Utah Jazz were just going to lay over and let Denver do what they want, but that wasn't the case either. So you never know. I mean, CJ McCollum's a great player still, and he can find a way to put up 30, 35 points.
I'll go through it quick here. Who wins the East in the regular season? Who has the top seed in the East?
Boston.
I agree with you. Top seed in the West.
This was a tough one. I think the LA Clippers are going to have
the top seed. There you go. Do the Lakers make the play-in?
No, I don't. For us to still on the team, I don't think they can.
There's
just too much bad juju around that team now, and they're just too many similar faces from last year that won't win.
Conference final in the East.
Conference final in the East, I think, will be. I think this year is going to be. Sorry, I'm just trying to do the placements where I think these teams would link.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be Boston, and I'm going to say Boston and Milwaukee.
Yeah, I agree with you. Who wins that?
Milwaukee.
Oh, look at the objectivity coming through.
Yeah, no, I love them, but I gotta be realistic. I think something's bad's gonna happen.
Can stay healthy, and that's a biggie. Like Milwaukee with him, Holiday, and Giannis, that's tough to crack.
Yeah, it was last year. I don't know. It's just kind of how Boston plays this year. If they stay healthy and they don't go into the playoffs banged up, then it could be anything. Because we saw that they already were banged up going in last year, and they somehow managed to get to a final. So we'll see what happens this year.
Conference finals in the West.
Conference finals in the West. God, this relies on one guy really, but if he stays healthy, Jamal Murray can stay healthy. God, I just want to see Denver do so well, because they're a team they have every piece to say that they can sustain a victory, but they just haven't knocked on anywhere since the bubble when they lost in the conference final.
Right.
I'm going to say Denver, and I'm going to put the Grizzlies in there.
Ooh, I like that.
And that would be my perfect conference final. But
I'd sign up for that too. That'd be thoroughly entertaining. Who wins that?
I'm going to hope that, and this kind of plays in with something else you're going to ask me probably, but I hope that although Ja pulls it off, I think the Grizzlies will pull through.
So you got Ja winning MVP?
I have Ja winning MVP this year, followed by Doncic.
Nice. I like
that. Are you releasing yours, or are you releasing them?
I did last week. The MVP I had – who did I have? I think I had Tatum. Yeah, I had Tatum. Yeah.
He's looking like it, but
You look good. But yeah, I think Ja was right on my short list, and I didn't put Luka on my top 3 because I didn't think they'd win enough.
I think you're underestimating that. I think Dallas is going to be a sneaky team this year, but I think they will pull it off because if Luka plays well, he looks
Right,
like he's in decent shape. He doesn't look like he ate chips like he did last season for a whole summer
right,
or wherever
right.
else maybe he was overseas, enjoying some fun wine. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, Christian Wood's a good player too. I mean, he
Mhm.
goes under the radar, but I think if he finds his game there, I think that's a dynamic duo. I mean, they don't like that they lost Brunson, but I also don't like the number New York decided to pay Brunson either. So
No, me either. Although they look pretty decent to start the
they
season.
looked pretty decent last year too. So they
Um,
fell off. Then they fell
True enough.
off.
Playing small wins in New York. Playing
Yeah, yeah.
Jets and Giants are on fire. I think it's a good things happening in New York right
Yeah.
now. Comeback player of the year.
Comeback. Oh, okay. I had most improved. Is that different than?
No, same thing. Yeah, same.
Okay. I
Yeah,
have. He's a sophomore player out of Houston. His name is Alperen Senghel. If I'm saying that right, I think he's a European player. He looks to start. He started the year really strong this year, and he doesn't look like a bad player. He's not even starting right now, but I think he could be by the end of the year starting over Jabari Smith Jr. or
right.
maybe even playing on a pair together. But I think he could be good.
Nice.
And then Giddy is my kind of runner up to that because I like Giddy.
So Memphis, Milwaukee. Who wins the title?
I think Milwaukee wins their second. Yeah.
Yeah, I had Milwaukee and Denver.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
so we're not that far off. Wow, we're really close actually. Because
yeah. That's what I said. I thought we were gonna have the same too.
yeah. I mean, and who did you pick?
I picked Milwaukee as well.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just feel like he's got another one in him. Like he's in his
Yeah.
prime right now, and I think that the ownership will realize, like ownership will back him, thinking, okay, if he needs that extra, if he needs a better center, if he needs more bench, like I feel like
Right.
they're willing to give that to him, knowing that he's got this window where he is one of the most dominant players in the league.
Yeah, I think if Middleton, if there's even a fear, say it's January and they're like, I don't know if Middleton's going to be healthy. I think they'll do something that they
Yeah,
didn't do last year to really help the team. They'll find somebody that to help the group, like you said, be ready to take on the Celtics, not undermanned to play. Because I think the East is tough. Celtics, I think the
me
Sixers
too.
can be a good team. I think the Raptors are sneaky good. I'm not saying they're great, but I don't think they're an easy out for anybody. I think they're tricky. There's the Heat down there who aren't bad. So yeah,
Brooklyn.
yeah, Brooklyn is always there. They had a interesting game
What's
with
great? What's
Memphis.
crazy about Brooklyn is like they were such a mismanaged operation last year. Like
Hmm.
let's be honest, from front to back, and they still made it into the playoffs. Yeah, they got dusted. I'll say that. But any
Right,
other team in the league that would have happened to, like the Lakers, they're not making it into the playoffs. But there's so much oozing talent on that team
right.
that, like, if they finally put it together and whatever, like Simmons and Durant can coincide, like they will be a pretty scary team to play. I wouldn't want to play them, and I wouldn't want my team to play them.
No, you're right. Especially, I think they're better defensively now. Obviously, with Simmons, Royce O'Neal's a good defender.
Yeah, Harris is back too.
Yeah, they can get a better center. Like Claxton can't play center.
Yeah,
Gaming,
he looked okay the first game though. He wasn't too bad.
he'll break. He'll,
What about if this is kind of sparking up what you said earlier? I guess is Turner done for the year or just done
no,
for?
he'll be back. I think in like a month or so,
Okay.
maybe a couple months.
If Milwaukee was scared and they thought, you know what, we need to beef up. If they went out and got Buddy Hield and Turner, and say gave a package deal Middleton and whoever else,
Right,
Lopez maybe. I'm not a big fan of Lopez, but I guess some people like him.
get him the hell out of there.
Yeah, like that'd be a really structured defensive team if you could add Turner to your center of that.
Yeah. Plus, I think Indiana will do anything to get rid of players. They want to tank. They want to tank for Vic. They want to be in that mix. Which there's so many teams in the West that are going to stink. Like I think
I know it's hard to tank.
Utah is going to stink eventually. San Antonio is going to stink eventually. OKC will find a way to be terrible. Houston's no good. Like that's 4 or 5 teams in the West right there. In the East, it's really Indiana, Washington. They might not be. Charlotte could be bad. Who knows with Charlotte? Like they could fall back into a pit of despair pretty quick because they find a way to do that. But it's always interesting with the World Series starting Friday. Who do you got winning the World Series?
My heart says the Phillies, but my brain unfortunately says that Houston's going to take this one. And yeah, it's important for them to take this one. Kudos to them. Obviously, I hate the Houston Astros because I'm a Los Angeles Dodgers fan, and I feel like we got cheated out of a World Series, but we'll never know. But I feel it's important for their legacy to win this because it kind of puts all of that garbage behind them. I mean, they've been to 3 World Series in the last 6 seasons, and I think that it's important for them to kind of put that behind them. It kind of puts a bow on Verlander's career. I realize he probably could pitch for another couple of years, but yeah, it'd be good for them to win, I think, overall. But my heart says Phillies. I wanted the Phillies in New York so bad because I wanted the 2 most scumbag fan bases just to go against each other. I thought that would have been fun. The only thing worse is, I guess Phillies versus Boston would have been bad too. But yeah, no,
right.
Yeah. But New York versus Phillies would have been great. Oh my God, I would have loved to see that series.
Just a couple scumbags chucking it up.
Oh, there would have been so many fights and people vandalizing things because they just no common sense. Sorry, Casey, I know you're a New York fan, but just no common sense there. X Factor are Altuve, Verlander, and Alec Bohm. I think if any of those guys shine, it'd be their team series.
Yeah, I got Houston as well. I just think their pitching is going to win out. It's a little better than Phillies because you can go Verlander, Valdez, and my boy McCullers, who's got great hair, and he's got good hair. And then you can go Javier in Game 4, which for the Phillies they got Suarez, who's okay.
He's just okay, yeah. He's not great.
They didn't want to pitch Syndergaard in Game 4. They went the bullpen, which turned out to be a crazy game. I just don't think you can win a 10-9 game. Houston's not going to play 10-9 with you. They're not going to give up that many hits. Their bullpen's too good. Their bullpen's got an 0.67 ERA so far this postseason. Their starters have a 1.62 ERA so far this postseason, and they're 7-0. So they're a dynasty type team. The 4 World Series in 6 years. I mean, it's impressive what they've done down there in Houston. Before I let you go, because I know you got some stuff to do tonight, you got to get to your business. Any plans this upcoming weekend? Anything on the horizon for Shea Baby?
Not too much. I think Halloween's around the corner, so probably get my treats out for my one kid that visits my street, which is kind of sad now I think about it. But no, nothing crazy. I think I'll probably be watching a lot of the World Series. You know what? I drift in and out sometimes in the playoffs for MLB, but I always try to focus in and dial in on the World Series, no matter if it's my team or not.
Right.
So yeah, I'll be doing that for sure. I'm sure there'll be some late nights probably with Houston in the mix.
Nice, not nice. Well, enjoy the weekend and enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
I appreciate that. Have a good one, my man.
All right, see ya. Thanks, Shea, for joining us as he always does on a Tuesday. And yeah, the World Series starts Friday night. It's a little bit of a delay before we get our first game of that series because of scheduling. That's just the way scheduling works. They schedule it in advance. Fox wants the game on Friday night, so that's when they're going to get it, on Friday night. And it does, in a sense, make sense because it doesn't interfere with the NFL, which there's an NFL game on Thursday night. They play Friday, they play Saturday. There's no NFL games. And then, they actually do have an off day, so they go 2, and then they go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so they won't have a World Series game on a NFL Sunday, which I have to give them credit. That is smart because people aren't watching baseball when there's football on. It was so underreported that both teams advanced to the World Series on Sunday during an NFL Sunday because it was just people were watching NFL. People weren't focused on Bryce Harper hitting a massive homer in the bottom of the eighth. People weren't focused on the Houston Astros sweeping the New York Yankees, Aaron Judge potentially playing his last game as a Yankee, although it won't be. So it makes sense, but also the 4 days between the games is a long runway. It is a long time, and you got to keep people focused on the task before it happens. So there's positive and negatives to this system and the way it's done. But the World Series starts on Friday night in Houston. Likely they haven't announced starters yet, but I think it'll be Verlander and Zach Wheeler for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, before we wrap up today, we got some NFL news that I haven't got to touch on the show yet. First, let's start with the New York Jets. They got some tough news, and I mentioned this on the podcast yesterday, that Breece Hall, their star rookie running back, tore his ACL in Sunday's win against the Denver Broncos. The Jets are 5-2, and Breece Hall was looking like a offensive rookie of the year candidate, potential winner. He's done for the season. He's a huge part of their offense. They have Michael Carter, who's in his second season out of the University of North Carolina, but the Jets decided to get even more security at the running back position, as last night they traded for James Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you don't know, James Robinson ran for over 1,100 yards last season. He made the Pro Bowl, and he just was not being used in the Jacksonville offense. Doug Peterson and Jacksonville have pivoted to using Travis Etienne Jr. on nearly every down now, also using Jamal Agnew at times. So James Robinson just wasn't being used. He wasn't getting the carries, and the Jets gave a 6th-round pick so that they can stay competitive for the rest of the season and try to get into the postseason. I applaud this move from the Jets. You've been horrible forever. You lose a big piece. Breece Hall is better than James Robinson, but James Robinson's also a good running back. He got 1,100 yards last season running behind that Jacksonville Jaguar offensive line. So this is a good move, but the Jets also lost Elijah Vera Tucker, who was their first round last season, 18th overall pick out of USC. He tore his labrum. He's done for the season. Breece Hall is done for the season. Just really a couple of tough breaks for the Jets yesterday, but I applaud them for not just standing pat, being aggressive, and going out there and getting James Robinson. Also, NFL news, Carolina Panthers announced, interim coach Steve Wilks announced that P.J. Walker, who beat Tom Brady this past weekend and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, would be getting the Week 8 start against the Atlanta Falcons because he earned it. Love this as well. You get a win against Brady. It doesn't matter that Baker Mayfield, doesn't matter that Sam Darnold are going to be back healthy. Give the start to the guy that won. And Steve Wilks is the interim coach. He's going to have no benefit from the Carolina Panthers tanking, being a bad team, drafting high, because quite frankly, he's not going to be the coach next season. He's going to be somewhere else, and if he can get this team to compete and play hard, and he believes P.J. Walker gives them the best chance to win, then start P.J. Walker. Kudos to Steve Wilks. Kudos to P.J. Walker for finding a way to remain competitive and win some ball games. But let's get to Monday Night Football, because that is where the interest lies right now to me. Because yesterday, I apologized to the New England Patriots. I said that I wrote them off before, too soon. That the AFC was wide open and that the Patriots seemed like they were on a magic carpet ride to making the playoffs yet again with a below-average team. I apologize to Patriots Nation. I apologize because I thought that take was going to be a bad one. But I learned a lesson today. Ergo, the title of today's podcast, Lesson Learned. The New England Patriots were a bad team before last night's game. They have a crap roster with little to no talent and 2 quarterbacks that are average Joe's Jim. And I apologize to that team. I learned that, Noah, you got to remember your first read. You got to remember your knowledge about football. That New England's not a great team. And yes, and also remember that this crazy NFL season makes no sense whatsoever. And every time you think you have it figured out, you don't. Tom Brady stinks. Aaron Rodgers stinks. The Jets are winning. The Giants are 6-1. the world is completely spinning on its axis. That's what we've realized this year, that it's complete anarchy in the National Football League. So with all that being said, after I apologize to the Patriots, I turn on Monday Night Football and I see Mac Jones is back. People in New England are fired up. And what happens? Mac Jones on his second drive of the game throws just a Nerf ball in the air, throws a heave into the air like he's a little kid diving for a balloon, just jumping at nothing, throwing the ball in the air, and it's intercepted by Brisker. 3 drives, no points. Also, just nothing positive happening for New England. But then Bill Belichick pulls Mac Jones, benches him, and in comes Bailey Zappi, who had won his first 2 starts for the Patriots. Bailey Zappi, 2 drives, 2 touchdowns. Makes smart decisions, throwing the ball up 50-50 balls to Devontae Parker. But like Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi has something that's tough to win as a quarterback, a noodle arm. His skills are very limited. He doesn't run with the football. He's a pocket passer, and yes, pocket passers win in this league, but they do not have the intellect, they do not have the ability of Tom Brady. So then I get to, you're thinking, well, even with these new arm quarterbacks, even with a below average roster, they're playing the Chicago Bears. I watched last night's game, and as you all know, if you listen to me on a regular basis, I have an affinity for Justin Fields. I love the guy like a pet. I loved him coming out of The Ohio State University, and I think the Bears have been mismanaging this player for nearly 2 seasons now. But last night, I saw a ray of hope for this football team. I saw a ray of hope for Justin Fields that this team might not just be trying to kill him, they might be trying to help him. I saw Justin Fields have receivers open in the middle of the field. Shallow crosses, slants where he can hit receivers open and get some good plays. I saw Justin Fields run bootlegs, run play-action plays where he could use his legs and he could use improvisational skills to his advantage. Justin Fields rushing for 83 yards last night, leading the Chicago Bears team. Yes, he only threw 21 passes, completed 13 of them, but the offense is their offense. I saw him be able to use what got him here, and it got the Bears to a road victory in New England against Bill Belichick. The Chicago Bears last night had more rushing yards than the New England Patriots had total yards for the game. Fields ran for 83. Montgomery ran for 62. Khalil Herbert ran for 62. And Dante Pettis had one rush for 29 yards. The Chicago Bears ran all over the New England Patriots defense. Not to mention, the Chicago Bears front, led by Roquan Smith, really the leader of the team, got all up into Bailey Zappi. They intercepted him twice. They intercepted Mac twice. They intercepted Mac once, and they forced a fumble. 4 turnovers created by the Chicago Bears defense. It was old school Bears. The Chicago Bears, in the history of their franchise, have never had a great quarterback. Jim McMahon, Jay Cutler, Rex Grossman, yes, they've won. Yes, they've been to Super Bowls, but they've never had an elite quarterback in the history of that franchise. Justin Fields still is up in the air. It's one game. But I saw competent coaching that realized what Justin Fields' skills are, and they allowed him to use them last night. Let him use his legs. Let him run bootlegs. Let him use his running backs. Throw it to Khalil Herbert in the flat. Give it to David Montgomery. Hit N'Keal Harry open in the middle of the field, the former Patriot. I did not owe the Patriots an apology, nor will I give them one the rest of this season. They have the Jets this weekend, who are red hot. But something Bill Belichick did last night that you can't undo, he's created a quarterback controversy in New England. He's created just an up-in-the-air uncertainty about what's happening at the most important position in football, because I think New England's in this position where they have two quarterbacks, which means you have none. I don't think Bailey Zappi or I don't think Mac Jones are great quarterbacks at all. I think both guys are league average. Mac Jones was great at Alabama. You know what also was great at Alabama? His receiving core. You know what his receiving core is in New England? A bunch of guys. Jacoby Myers is their best. He's a quarterback turned wide receiver. Devontae Parker, yeah, he's being productive in New England because there's nobody else to throw to. Ramondre Stevenson is the most important part of that New England offense. Bill Belichick says nothing to the media. He downplays everything. Well, now you have two quarterbacks that want the job. You have a Mac Jones who's clearly temperamental, and he gets upset about not getting all kinds of information, and I'm sure he's not real happy today about being put on the bench last night. Where do the Patriots go from here? They play Monday night, so they're on a short week. They play Sunday in New York. New York's got all kinds of injuries, but New York's riding high. They got momentum. I don't know. Bill Belichick can make crazy decisions. I've never seen him pull a quarterback like that midway through the game, and now, because the game went so horribly after that, there's question marks. It's funny because Bill Belichick never truly loved Tom Brady. He loved Jimmy Garoppolo. He loved other guys. Tom Brady was just thrown in front of him, and he was forced to accept him. They drafted Mac Jones 15th overall a year ago. Did Bill Belichick really love Mac Jones, or does he love the idea of Bailey Zappi, the guy he can mold and be the guy that he wants him to be? Not the quarterback asking questions. Bailey Zappi's the robot that he can just program and do whatever he deems fit. Patriots, Jets, Bears go to the Cowboys. Two biggest takeaways last night. Justin Fields might be actually getting some coaching. And the New England Patriots absolutely have a quarterback controversy. And by the way, they got to play the Jets. Yes, there's no Breece Hall, but there's a Braxton Berrios who they like to use in the run game. They just traded for James Robinson, and Michael Carter's a running back as well. You gave up almost 300 yards rushing to the Bears. You're playing a good rushing team. They need to figure out, by the time we get to Sunday, how to stop the run. Because Matt Judon had 3.5 sacks last night, and it didn't matter because the Bears mollywopped the New England Patriots. One of the worst losses in Bill Belichick's tenure as head coach is the New England Patriots because the Bears stink, period. Although they do have the same record as the Green Bay Packers. That's this season. The Bears have 2 more wins than the Detroit Lions. Why? I don't know, but they do. That's it for today, folks. Tomorrow, it's Wednesday already, hump day tomorrow. Matt Wright will join me on Thursday. Tomorrow, winners and losers of Week 7 in the NFL. We'll recap some NHL games. We'll talk a little World Series, and we got some NBA news and notes as well tomorrow. So much happening. So much happening right now, and I love it. I love having all kinds of stuff on, so much stuff to track. Games tonight, you got Pittsburgh against Calgary in the NHL. That should be an interesting game. You got Dallas on a back-to-back in Boston. Game of the night for me in the National Hockey League. Colorado, New York. Could very well be a Stanley Cup preview. Alexander Georgiev, who was traded from the Rangers to Colorado in the offseason, will play against his former team this evening at MSG. He'll also be up against Igor Shesterkin, his former running mate in net. 2 great teams go head-to-head. You got Seattle and Sabres tonight. You got Tampa, who's in Los Angeles. Some good games. Some good games this evening across the National Hockey League that we'll touch on tomorrow. You also got Pelicans and Mavericks in the NBA, which, yeah, you might be missing some key pieces, but I still think it's a really good game and a really fun one that we'll talk about tomorrow. So have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on To The Point.